If you want to manage age-related prostate problems naturally, you should pay attention to your dietary habits. Urology specialists have identified 5 foods that men over 60 should eliminate from their diets. These foods can trigger prostate inflammation and worsen BPH symptoms. Limiting or completely eliminating these foods can help support your prostate health. Research shows that approximately 80% of men over 60 experience some degree of benign prostatic hyperplasia or BPH. This non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate has become so common that many consider it an inevitable part of male aging. Yet what many men don't realize is that certain dietary choices may be contributing to prostate inflammation and potentially worsening BPH symptoms. What's particularly interesting is that 5 specific foods appear to be especially problematic for prostate health in older men. Let us know where you're watching from and how old you are in the comments below. These problematic foods have gained attention from urologists who specialize in men's health. What's consistent across these specialists' observations is that making strategic dietary adjustments may help reduce inflammation and irritation that can exacerbate prostate symptoms. When urologists first began investigating the connection between diet and prostate health, many were surprised to discover how significant these seemingly ordinary foods could be. However, as research accumulates, the biochemical mechanisms behind these connections are beginning to make scientific sense. I'm Dr. Michael Bennett, and for over 25 years, I've specialized in urology with a focus on men's health issues, particularly those affecting older men. Today I'll share information about 5 common foods that may be negatively impacting your prostate health. Foods that, when eliminated from your diet, might help complement your treatment plan and potentially improve your symptoms. Before we explore these foods, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. Each week, we share evidence-based approaches to healthy aging focused on practical, accessible strategies. If you're interested in ways to potentially support your prostate health, you won't want to miss our upcoming videos. These dietary factors are worth examining because they relate to how inflammation, hormonal balance, and oxidative stress, 3 factors that significantly influence prostate health, are affected by what we eat. To understand why these foods matter, let's first look at how the prostate responds to dietary influences. The prostate gland is particularly sensitive to inflammatory compounds in the bloodstream, which can cause the tissue to swell and exacerbate urinary symptoms. Additionally, certain foods can influence hormonal balance, particularly testosterone and dihydrotestosterone, DHT, which play significant roles in prostate growth. Oxidative stress, caused by an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in the body, can also contribute to prostate inflammation and tissue damage. With these factors in mind, let's examine the 5 foods that urologists have identified as potentially problematic for men with prostate concerns. The 5 problematic foods. The first food that may be negatively affecting your prostate health is alcohol, particularly beer. While moderate alcohol consumption is considered acceptable in many dietary guidelines, research suggests that regular beer consumption may be particularly problematic for prostate health in older men. The connection between beer and prostate issues appears to involve several mechanisms. First, beer contains plant compounds called phytoestrogens, which can mimic estrogen in the body. The balance between testosterone and estrogen plays a crucial role in prostate health, and disruptions to this balance may potentially influence prostate growth. Additionally, alcohol is known to increase inflammation throughout the body, including potentially in the prostate. For men already experiencing prostate inflammation due to BPH, this additional inflammatory stimulus may exacerbate symptoms. Alcohol can also cause dehydration, which may concentrate urine and potentially irritate the urinary tract, further complicating BPH symptoms. Perhaps most importantly for men over 60, alcohol can interfere with sleep by disrupting normal sleep cycles and increasing nighttime awakening. Given that many men with BPH already experience nocturia, nighttime urination, alcohol's sleep-disrupting effects can compound this problem, leading to more fragmented sleep and greater nighttime bathroom trips. Urologists typically recommend that men with prostate concerns either eliminate alcohol entirely or limit consumption to very moderate levels, no more than 1 standard drink per day, with several alcohol-free days each week. For those who do choose to drink occasionally, red wine may be a better choice than beer due to its potential anti-inflammatory properties and lower phytoestrogen content. The second food category that might be contributing to prostate issues is dairy products, particularly full-fat varieties. Milk, cheese, and other dairy products contain natural growth factors and hormones that, while normal components of these foods, may potentially influence prostate cells. Several large epidemiological studies have found associations between high dairy consumption and increased risk of prostate issues. One potential mechanism involves insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, which is present in dairy products and also increases in the human body after dairy consumption. IGF-1 promotes cell growth and proliferation, which could potentially influence prostate tissue. Additionally, the saturated fat content in full-fat dairy products may increase inflammation and potentially affect hormonal balance. Some research suggests that saturated fat consumption may increase the production of inflammatory compounds in the body and might influence testosterone metabolism in ways that could affect prostate health. Calcium absorption from dairy is another potential factor. While calcium is essential for overall health, some studies suggest that very high calcium intake, particularly from dairy sources, may be associated with certain prostate issues. The exact mechanism isn't fully understood, but it may involve interactions with vitamin D metabolism or other regulatory pathways. Urologists typically recommend that men with prostate concerns consider reducing full-fat dairy consumption and choosing plant-based alternatives when possible. For those who do include dairy in their diet, low-fat options and fermented dairy products like yogurt, which contain beneficial probiotics, may be better choices than full-fat milk, cheese, and ice cream. The third food category that may be problematic for prostate health is processed red meat, including bacon, sausages, hot dogs, deli meats, and highly processed hamburgers. These foods contain several compounds that may potentially contribute to prostate inflammation and oxidative stress. When meats are processed with methods like smoking, curing, or adding preservatives, they form compounds called advanced glycation end products, AGEs, and heterocyclic amines, HCAs, which may increase inflammation and oxidative damage in the body. Additionally, the nitrates and nitrites used as preservatives in many processed meats can form potentially problematic compounds called nitrosamines when digested. The high saturated fat content in many processed meats may also contribute to systemic inflammation, potentially affecting the prostate. Furthermore, cooking methods often used with processed meats, such as high-temperature grilling, can increase the formation of inflammatory compounds. Several large epidemiological studies have found associations between high consumption of processed red meats and increased incidence of various prostate issues. While correlation doesn't prove causation, the consistent findings across multiple studies, combined with our understanding of the biological mechanisms involved, suggest that reducing processed meat consumption may be beneficial for prostate health. Urologists typically recommend that men with prostate concerns significantly limit or eliminate processed red meats from their diet. For those who enjoy meat, better alternatives include fresh poultry, fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and occasionally small portions of unprocessed, lean red meat. Robert, a 72-year-old who had been managing BPH for several years, made changes to his consumption of these first 3 problematic foods. "I was a big beer drinker, usually 2 or 3 bottles every evening with dinner, plus several more on weekends," he explains. "I also ate quite a bit of cheese and processed meats like bacon and sausage. When my urologist suggested these might be contributing to my prostate symptoms, I decided to make some changes." After reducing his alcohol consumption to just 1 glass of red wine a few times a week and significantly cutting back on dairy and processed meats, Robert noticed improvements. "Within about 3 weeks, I was getting up only once or twice at night instead of 3 or 4 times. My daytime frequency improved too, and the urgency that used to send me running to find a bathroom decreased significantly." What surprised Robert most was how these dietary changes affected his overall well-being. "Beyond the prostate symptoms, I noticed I had more energy, less joint pain, and even lost some weight without really trying. I hadn't expected those additional benefits, but they've motivated me to stick with these changes long-term." The fourth food category that may negatively impact prostate health is caffeinated beverages, particularly when consumed in large quantities or later in the day. Coffee, tea, energy drinks, and cola beverages can affect the urinary system in ways that may exacerbate BPH symptoms. Caffeine is a diuretic, meaning it increases urine production by the kidneys. For men already experiencing frequent urination due to BPH, this additional diuretic effect can increase both the volume and frequency of urination, potentially worsening symptoms like urgency and frequency. Additionally, caffeine can stimulate bladder muscle contractions and increase bladder pressure, which may intensify feelings of urgency. It can also irritate the bladder lining in some individuals, potentially increasing sensitivity and contributing to more frequent urination signals. The timing of caffeine consumption is particularly important. Consuming caffeinated beverages in the afternoon or evening can lead to increased nighttime urination, compounding the nocturia already experienced by many men with BPH and further disrupting sleep. It's worth noting that caffeine affects individuals differently based on their metabolism, tolerance, and the specific caffeinated beverage consumed. Some men find that even small amounts of caffeine significantly worsen their urinary symptoms, while others may tolerate moderate amounts without noticeable effects. Urologists typically recommend that men with prostate concerns limit caffeine consumption and avoid caffeinated beverages entirely after early afternoon. For those who enjoy the taste and ritual of coffee or tea, decaffeinated versions can provide the experience without the potentially problematic effects on the urinary system. The fifth food category that may be problematic for prostate health is highly processed, sugary foods and beverages. This includes sodas, packaged desserts, candies, and processed snack foods containing high amounts of refined sugars, artificial ingredients, and unhealthy fats. The connection between these foods and prostate health involves several mechanisms. First, high sugar consumption can lead to blood sugar spikes and increased insulin production. Chronic elevation of insulin levels may potentially influence growth factors that affect prostate tissue. Additionally, the metabolic changes associated with high sugar consumption can promote systemic inflammation, potentially affecting the prostate. Many highly processed foods also contain artificial additives, preservatives, and trans fats that may contribute to oxidative stress and inflammation. Some research suggests that diets high in these processed foods are associated with increased markers of inflammation throughout the body, which could potentially affect prostate health. Furthermore, highly processed foods often displace healthier options in the diet. When men consume large amounts of processed foods, they typically consume fewer fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and other foods that contain protective compounds for prostate health like antioxidants, fiber, and beneficial plant chemicals. Urologists typically recommend that men with prostate concerns significantly reduce consumption of highly processed, sugary foods and beverages, replacing them with whole, nutrient-dense alternatives. Natural desserts like fresh fruit can satisfy sweet cravings without the potentially negative effects of highly processed options. Thomas, a 68-year-old with moderate BPH symptoms, found that reducing caffeine and processed foods made a noticeable difference in his symptoms. I was a serious coffee drinker, probably 5 or 6 cups throughout the day, with the last one often around 7 p.m., he shares. I also had a pretty serious sweet tooth, especially for packaged cookies and ice cream. After limiting himself to just 1 cup of coffee in the morning and switching to herbal tea for the rest of the day, while also significantly reducing his consumption of processed sweets, Thomas experienced improvements. The most dramatic change was in my nighttime symptoms. I went from getting up almost hourly some nights to usually just once or twice. During the day, I still have frequency issues, but the urgency is much more manageable. What Thomas found particularly valuable was how these dietary changes improved his sleep quality. Even when I do get up at night, I fall back asleep much more easily than before. I'm actually getting restful sleep now, which has improved my energy levels and overall quality of life tremendously. Let us know where you're watching from and how old you are in the comments below. While eliminating these 5 problematic food categories provides a good foundation, replacing them with prostate-friendly alternatives is equally important. These dietary additions might help support prostate health and potentially reduce symptoms. Prostate-friendly alternatives. Instead of alcohol, particularly beer, consider hydrating with plain water, herbal teas, or sparkling water with a splash of pomegranate or tart cherry juice. Both pomegranate and tart cherry contain antioxidants that may help reduce inflammation and potentially support prostate health. As alternatives to dairy products, consider plant-based options like almond milk, oat milk, or other non-dairy beverages. For calcium, incorporate leafy green vegetables, fortified plant milks, broccoli, and small fish with edible bones like sardines. Plant-based cheeses, made from nuts, can provide satisfying flavors and textures without the potential downsides of dairy for prostate health. To replace processed red meats, focus on lean protein sources like fresh fish, particularly fatty fish rich in omega-3s like salmon and sardines, poultry without the skin, legumes like beans and lentils, and small amounts of unprocessed, lean red meat if desired. Plant proteins like tofu and tempeh can also be excellent alternatives with potential benefits for prostate health. Instead of caffeinated beverages, especially later in the day, opt for herbal teas, decaffeinated coffee or tea, and plenty of water. Some herbal teas like rooibos, hibiscus, and certain green tea varieties contain antioxidants that may potentially support prostate health. To replace highly processed, sugary foods, choose whole fruits, small amounts of dark chocolate, 70% cocoa or higher, homemade desserts with reduced sugar and whole food ingredients, and natural snacks like nuts and seeds. Berries are particularly beneficial, as they're lower in sugar than many other fruits and rich in antioxidants that may help reduce inflammation. James, a 74-year-old with both BPH and occasional prostatitis flare-ups, found that not only eliminating problematic foods, but also adding beneficial alternatives made a significant difference. I didn't just cut out the 5 food groups my urologist mentioned. I also made a point to add foods that might actively help my prostate, he explains. I started eating more tomatoes and tomato products for the lycopene, plenty of colorful vegetables for their antioxidants, fatty fish twice a week, and a handful of pumpkin seeds almost daily. After about 2 months of these comprehensive dietary changes, James noticed substantial improvements. My symptoms decreased to the point where my doctor and I decided to reduce my medication dosage. The dietary changes weren't a complete cure. I still have BPH, but they've made managing it much easier and with fewer pharmaceutical side effects. What James appreciated most was gaining a sense of control over his condition. Making these dietary changes gave me a way to actively participate in managing my prostate health. Instead of just taking pills and hoping for the best, I'm making daily choices that seem to be genuinely helping. The biochemical mechanisms behind how these dietary choices affect prostate health are multifaceted. Alcohol, dairy, processed meats, caffeine, and highly processed foods can all contribute to inflammation through various pathways, potentially increasing oxidative stress, affecting hormonal balance, or directly irritating the urinary system. Additionally, these food choices may influence the gut microbiome, the community of beneficial bacteria in the digestive tract. Emerging research suggests connections between gut health and systemic inflammation, including potentially in the prostate. A diet high in the problematic foods we've discussed may disrupt the balance of gut bacteria, potentially contributing to increased inflammation throughout the body. Now, I want to share what might be the most important factor for success with these dietary changes, something that urologists consistently emphasize. The key factor appears to be consistency and patience. Unlike medications that might produce effects within days, the benefits of dietary changes typically develop gradually as inflammatory processes subside, and the body adjusts to a new nutritional environment. Many men report noticing initial improvements within 2 to 3 weeks, with continued improvements over several months of consistent dietary changes. It's also important to maintain realistic expectations. While these dietary modifications may help support prostate health and potentially reduce symptoms, they typically provide complementary benefits rather than replacing appropriate medical care. The advantage, however, is that these changes are generally free from side effects and may provide additional health benefits beyond prostate symptoms. Michael, a 79-year-old who incorporated these dietary changes into his comprehensive approach to prostate health, emphasized the importance of viewing them as part of a larger strategy. These changes to my diet were just one piece of my overall approach, he shares. I also adjusted my fluid intake timing, started specific exercises, and continued taking my prescribed medication. Together, these approaches have helped me manage my prostate symptoms much better than any single approach alone. What Michael found most valuable was the improved quality of life these changes provided. It's not just about reducing symptoms, it's about how those reductions translate into real life. I can sit through a movie without having to get up multiple times. I can take road trips without planning around bathroom access. I can sleep more soundly. These improvements have made my retirement years much more enjoyable. For those who want to implement these prostate-friendly dietary changes, I recommend starting today and committing to at least 4 weeks of consistent practice before evaluating their effectiveness for your specific situation. Remember that these changes work best as part of a comprehensive approach to prostate health that includes appropriate medical care, proper hydration, regular physical activity, and stress management. It's worth noting that while these dietary changes are generally safe for most men, it's always wise to discuss significant changes to your diet with your healthcare provider, particularly if you're taking medications for prostate conditions or other health issues, or if you have conditions like diabetes that require careful dietary management. Let's summarize the 5 foods that men over 60 with prostate concerns should consider eliminating or significantly reducing. Alcohol, particularly beer, due to its potential effects on hormonal balance, inflammation, and sleep disruption. Dairy products, especially full-fat varieties, which contain growth factors and hormones that may influence prostate cells. Processed red meats like bacon and sausage, which contain compounds that may increase inflammation and oxidative stress. Caffeinated beverages, particularly when consumed in large quantities or later in the day, which can exacerbate urinary symptoms. Highly processed, sugary foods and beverages, which may promote inflammation and displace healthier, prostate-supporting foods in the diet. Instead, focus on incorporating prostate-friendly alternatives like water, herbal teas, and occasional small amounts of red wine instead of beer and other alcoholic beverages. Plant-based milk alternatives and other calcium sources instead of dairy. Fresh fish, poultry, legumes, and plant proteins instead of processed meats. Herbal teas and decaffeinated beverages instead of caffeinated drinks. Whole fruits, dark chocolate, and natural snacks instead of processed sweets and snacks. These dietary adjustments, when implemented consistently as part of a comprehensive approach to prostate health, may help reduce inflammation and potentially improve BPH symptoms for many men. While no dietary change can replace appropriate medical care for prostate conditions, these modifications represent gentle, complementary options that might help support your prostate health as you age. The beauty of these approaches lies in their additional benefits for overall health. What's good for your prostate is generally good for your heart, brain, and entire body. If you found this information valuable, please consider sharing this video with friends and family who might benefit. Many men struggle with prostate issues as they age, unaware that simple dietary changes might offer additional support. Subscribe to our channel for more evidence-based approaches to healthy aging, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Each week, we explore different aspects of well-being for older adults, always focused on practical, accessible strategies. Thank you for joining me today. I wish you vibrant health and well-being in the years ahead. Until next time, take good care of yourself.